Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are having a look at a new Moments of Valor. This time it is looking at Brazil and showing off some of the history of Brazil when it comes to its military aviation. Now, what is cool about the Moments of Valor, it seems like they are adding in a bunch of stuff alongside of it, starting off with a bunch of camouflages that you can purchase with Golden Eagles in the game. There's one for the P-47 D-28 for the US, the Leopard 1A5 is getting one too for Germany, and also the M41 for the US as well. So if you are interested in Brazilian camouflages, those are the ones to have a look at. The other part is there is a new bundle out, which has the Reaper in it, the Meteor, and also it has the AMX A-1A, plus a unique title, which is the Wings That Protect. So you can get both of these vehicles for half off in this bundle, and overall I'd say it's a pretty good pickup if you want the CAS elements and also are confident with the weapon system, specifically on the AMX. Also, at the same time, I know that my webcam is like super bright right now. I'm trying to fix it. I've just changed like my whole setup, so now I need to get like the color balance right. But for the meantime, it's time to be Casper the Friendly Ghost. Now, the interesting thing is we'll go over the bundle and also the vehicles in it. I'll give my opinions on it. But first of all, I wanted to go over the video, because there's a few things in this video which are actually really interesting in terms of the actual game itself and what may be added in the future. They always leave some little like tidbits in these videos. Now, the most important thing to understand is what it says at the start here, which is some models and animations are being shown purely for cinematic purposes. So just be, careful getting hyped about some of these things, but also at the same time, it's nice to get a little bit hyped, right? There's, I'd say, three things in this video, which are not necessarily new to War Thunder because they've been put in different ways, but three things that we may see in the future, which would be really cool. And by the way, this video is much better than the Argentinian one. It's a lot more focused on the country itself instead of other parts, which don't really make a lot of sense. So I would actually say that this video is much better in terms of telling Brazil's history through kind of the Second World War all the way into modern day when it comes to its aviation part, which is really cool. And that's, kind of important in its own way. But the interesting thing to start off with is they show some like new ground crews. They show obviously the good old Catalina. And then also you can see here the good old submarines. So this is something that has been talked about many times when it comes to War Thunder, and we know the models exist. They're in War Thunder Mobile. They obviously did the naval test last year when it came to submarines, and also it's been something that's on a bunch of people's minds for many months now. Now, one of the community managers came out a little bit ago saying that there were no plans to implement submarines, and that's fair. But as we've talked about previously, plans change, and community managers don't actually, they're not the decision makers when it comes to anything. Community managers are people who, well, first of all, are there to manage to the community, but also, second of all, are supposed to relay messages from the developers to the overall community. And what has happened in the past is community managers have said things, and it turns out, whether it's a few months later, or even a few years later, or a few days later, the opposite has happened. And this has kind of put them in a crux, and then they just get out of jail free with the, well, plans changed. So even though somebody says there are no current plans for implementing something, that does not mean that it won't come in the future. That literally just means they're working on other stuff, which is of higher priority, and then they'll discuss adding that later on. The fact that we've had 3 tests with submarines in the past, with 2 April Fool's events, and then also the last one last year, would show that they're at least attempting or trying to add them in. Whether they do or not is obviously a different question. But yeah, they show a German U-boat here getting bombed by the Catalina, getting absolutely hammered, and even show like the sailors, which is pretty cool with the little hats on, which and the captain throwing his hat at the Catalina. Oh, I didn't even see that little animation. Did you see that? He got bopped. Hey, watch this dude right here. It's the little things. Look, he gets bopped by a life jacket. Boop. It looks like the Catalina threw off some life jackets. So it goes through all of the different parts that, of course, Brazil were involved in. You had obviously the Second World War, you had the post-Second World War era, then obviously you had the Falklands, where they were operating F5s, and then after that, of course, the Narcos thing. Now, this is the second point that I wanted to kind of bring up, which I think would be kind of fun. You can see here there's a pendant. Imagine if you could have customizable cockpits. Imagine if you could put pictures in them. I know that there are some user camouflages which actually change the cockpit and how they actually look. My bad, that was my machine. Imagine if they actually implemented a little box somewhere where you could put like a picture or put like a necklace or put like anything as kind of a memento, and then you could unlock that during events or you could unlock that during battle passes. I think that would add something to a lot of these vehicles, especially ones which have really nice cockpits. Or you could just have a universal one where you just put like a stamp there, like a decal or an insignia or something like that. But once again, the large area that War Thunder has to kind of expand on is pretty simple. It is the area of customization. They're getting there with a lot of areas of the game, and they're pushing certain areas very hard, but there's still a lot to open up. Like this update, they're supposed to be opening up the profile stuff. You know, we obviously saw the sneak peek of it more recently, and hopefully cockpits and other areas can be, you know, opened up too. They added naval flags in, which were really cool. They added in, obviously, ground decorations, naval decorations. How about you get air decorations, but they're for the cockpits of the planes? I think overall that would be fantastic. And you could even do unique ones for specific events, like the F-14 event. Maybe it's like a picture of a famous F-14 pilot, or maybe it's a specific helmet or something that your pilot wears. Something like that would be kind of cool. Imagine if you had like a Star Wars tie-in, and then you actually had like the kind of rebel pilot hat or something like that. That would be really cool. I'd love to see that. But also on top of that, there's something else they show. That's right, it's your boy the Vulcan. So the Vulcan is part of the V-Bombers. The V-Bombers was a program in Britain to create fast, usually high-altitude vehicles, which just had a ridiculous payload and designed to get into the target, hammer down, and then get out, right? There was a few of them that changed their general ideas. I think the Victor was the one that ended up being a more low-altitude vehicle because of the stress on the airframe didn't really work too well, so they had to go low and then hammer down and then get out of there. But the Vulcan, which is the one which I think most people know, has had a user model in the game for the longest time, like years and years and years at this point, and it still has never come to the game. It's one of those things which has just been left kind of sat there, not really doing anything. And it would be really awesome to see. But at the same time, Gaijin have gone towards the idea of kind of strike aircraft. They've gone towards the idea of trying to make those type of vehicles work, so they're more like multi-role vehicles, whereas the Vulcan, unless you add very specific variants of it, it is very much designed as a bomb truck with a ton of countermeasures on it. So that would just be it. Now, I would love to see stuff like the Vulcan in. I would love to see more of these kind of mid-tier strategic bombers. The only issue, of course, is the bomb load and their survivability. And the bomb load could be limited to whatever fits the game. The survivability part is a bit of the problem. But then again, we have the Buccaneer. So it's kind of been shown that stuff like the Buccaneer can survive, it can do its job with the weaponry it has. So therefore, why couldn't the Vulcan do the same thing? And that's always been kind of my idea in terms of the game. Like, where could the Vulcan fit? And the Vulcan could fit in the game right now if they wanted it to. The real question is, how do you make it a fun experience to actually play? So that's the more interesting part for me. It's really cool to see the Vulcan, though, and also alongside all of the other vehicles that they show, there's some really cool models in here, which is really well made and looks really nice. You know, you can see here the helicopter coming in. No idea if this is a helicopter that we don't have. It looks like a Lynx to me, but I might be wrong about that. I'm terrible with helicopters in terms of what they look like. And then, of course, the Gripen 2, which we also have. Hopefully, we can get some of these decals in the game. That would be really nice to see. And also, maybe they could bring back tricolored smoke. You know, maybe that's the way forward in terms of War Thunder. But this video is fantastic. It's really well made. And I would say out of all the ones that we've seen, this one I think is the truest form to the actual country that it talks about, and also at the same time just the nicest to watch. So big ups to whoever made this. A great job. And what we'll do is we'll have a look at the bundle which goes alongside of it. So there are two vehicles that are available in the ASAS-K Protegium pack, the Reaper and also the AMX A-1. Both of these together are 50% off. So if you want to pick up the pack, make sure to use my partner code so you can get these things half price and also support the channel and get the decal in the game. The first vehicle, the Reaper, is a 8.0 vehicle, and it doesn't change whether it's in air or ground. I feel like this type of vehicle probably should, since it's more focused on ground than it is air. The Meteors in general are in a pretty rough position because Gaijin decided to move down the Sabres and the MiG-15s, which are just better than it in every single way. They turn better, they have better energy retention, they probably don't have as good guns, so at least there's that, but yeah. The Meteors basically are cannon fodder for those vehicles, but at least you stay out that 9.3 bracket, so you don't have to deal with all the crazy supersonics that are at 932. The vehicle has the 20mm Spanos centrally mounted, very good firepower, a lot of damage, and also just a lot of rounds in general, meaning that you can do very well with them. The general maneuverability of this vehicle is fantastic, and also the engines, the DOE and 8s, give you enough power to sustain fight in that setup. The major problem with the Meteor is it's a bit too slow, and once again, things can just out-energy fight you, even though your whole point is to try and out-energy fight them, and it just doesn't really work too well. As somebody who's spaded pretty much all of the Meteor Fs in the game, this has been pretty much my issue the whole time. Get into the battle, face things that have better engine characteristics than you, can't get into a positive position, end up getting killed, and it doesn't very feel great. The difference between the standard Meteor F and this one is this one has access to better ordnance. It gets the 1,000-pounders, the two different types of 1,000-pounders that the British get. You can see they're very similar in terms of what they are. Basically just the TNT in this one and the RDX in this one. You also get some RP3s if you want to bring those along as well. And it means that in ground forces, you have a vehicle that you can kind of dumb bomb with. It doesn't have CCIP or anything like that, so you have to use the Mark 1 eyeball, and if you're good at that, then you'll be able to get 4 very good kills with it. But if you're not, then it's probably better to use other machines which have more guided weaponry around this BR. 8.0 is an interesting BR too as well. If you get down-tiered, you don't have to face radar-guided AAs. If you are up-tiered or play at mainly your BR, you do. So what ends up happening is you have a pretty rough time with it, unfortunately. And another part is the 8.0 lineup for Britain. You have the Centurion, the Vickers, the Swingfire, and that's about it. But overall, that's not bad. The Vickers Mark 1 is a fantastic vehicle, the Centurion is a good backup, and also the Swingfire as a situational vehicle works pretty well. You also have the 8.3 lineup, which is very good for Britain too, which you could definitely run with the vehicle. So at least you have those going for you. For me, though, the Meteor just loses out to a bunch of other vehicles which are around in the tech tree. If you want to feel what the vehicle's going to feel like, you can play these things. I haven't even respaded these things after they added bombs to them. But since they added bombs, basically these are the same as the other one, apart from you just lose half the ordnance. So if you want to pay, you know, $25 for two 1000s, you know, be my guest. But I think in the pack, this one is not the one that you're looking forward to. The other vehicle in the pack is the AMX A-1A. This one, the pack is in there too in the bundle, and you also get a unique title, which is Wings That Protect, which is quite a nice one. So this vehicle is a lot better than the Meteor, and it's because of its secondary ordnance. This is very similar and on the same kind of caliber stuff like the A10 and the SU-25, where its flight performance isn't exactly great, but its secondary armaments are pretty good if you're able to get it going. This vehicle uses the SPAY, which gives it enough power to be able to get around the place. It also has DEFers, which are nice to use, and it does have a radar rangefinder, which is pretty worthless for the plane overall, but does have a very good RWR, telling you if you are getting locked or if you're getting hammered. It also has an IRST, which basically means that it's very hard to detect if it is going after you. So the key thing about this vehicle is obviously its secondary ordnance. It has access to the Piranha air-to-air missiles, which are unique to this vehicle, by the way. So if you like uniqueness, that's what this is. These are fantastic missiles. You can see the maximum overload, 45 Gs. They're super fast. You know, they have decent guidance time. There's one problem, though. They have no IRCCM. So this means that they're easily flareable. Even if they continue onto the target afterwards, it's quite easy to get them off of you. They do course correct quite quickly, though, similar to stuff like the Magic, for example. But since they just don't have IRCCM at this high of a BR, it's going to be pretty hard to get kills with these unless people aren't paying attention, which, let's be honest, a lot of them don't. It's also an all-aspect missile, so you can use it in a kind of forward thing. Usually what I do with these or similar missiles is I wait until I'm super close to the enemy in a head-on and then just fire them at about 1 kilometer out, because then it's very hard for the flares to actually hold on to the missile and then kind of go from there. But the major reason why you use a vehicle like this is this part, and it's these specifically. The good old lizards, the 2 guided bombs. So you can bring a thermal pod into ground, and you can also bring the laser guided bombs. This means that you can go to space in ground, and you can drop stuff above the battlefield and just keep bonking things while using your chaff to stop the radar AAs locking onto you, and also use your flares to stop the IR guided ones. But if you're high enough, because this thing isn't an afterburning engine, it isn't very hot, it can actually be very hard to target with IR guided missiles. So you can actually stay above the battlefield, bonk people with the thermals, and then just keep going up and down and do crazy stuff. That's the reason why it got bumped up in BR, and also why it stays at quite a high BR. You can actually do really well with this machine, though, and since Italy is getting better and better and better in its ground lineups, then maybe this thing is something worth considering, but only if you don't want to grind out the standard tech tree vehicle, which is there. The standard tech tree vehicle is the AMX. It's a 10.7 because it doesn't get as crazy ordnance in terms of air-to-air stuff. It only gets AIM-9Ls, but it also does get the Paveway 2s and the Paveway 3s and the Paveways there. So this one is actually in a better place if you want to ground pound with it, but the AMX A-1A obviously gets the premium bonuses and the crazy missiles if people don't know how to use flares. So for me, I would say the AMX A1 for half off, definitely worth it. The Reaper, it's kind of worth it, but not really. But overall, I would probably say yes to this pack, just because of the half-price nature. Make sure to have a look at the camos if you want to find them in the game. You can actually find them in skins, and then if you have a look at the different nations. So, for example, for America, and then also planes, you can scroll down and have a look at all of the cool camos that are there. Don't know if people knew that this was here, but it's actually really cool. And then this, I believe, is the one which is for it. Is it? I mean, maybe. Who knows? It could be this one. It could be many others, since there are a million of them in the game right now. But yeah, no, it's definitely not this one. But maybe there's another one. Is it this? It's got to be one of the... Oh, yeah, it's definitely this one in it. So if you want to get these, you can purchase them. They're going to be there forever, just like the other ones. And it means that you can just have a bit of drip and enjoy another country gracing itself in War Thunder. Because at the end of the day, that's what's important, right? Just having more and more countries and more people represented and more people who are around to see these things, which is fantastic. And then you even have one for the 1A5, which is cool. This is the Encurracado camo. So, lovely stuff. Nice to see. As always, though, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.